This is a tutorial on the rollup definition entry screen. The screen is used to take a low-level detail, for example a cost center, and begin to define a rollup hierarchy for the cost centers that are going to be used on our financial statements. This screen is used to define the first level of the rollup, and there's a facility to actually use these rollups in a multi-level rollup definition, and we're going to discuss that in detail momentarily. So this program basically allows us to set up rollups for our branches and general ledger segments that are going to be used in the financial statements. First of all, I'd like to quickly just go into our account table maintenance so we can take a look at the structure of our GL that we're going to be using within the application today. So, as in all GL account structures, you're going to enter a branch, and in our case here we've set up a two-segment GL account structure. The first segment is called the cost center. The second segment, which is our lowest level, we're defining as an account. Now within the SDC application you can have multiple segments defined within your within the application. So at system startup you would define how many segments you wish to use for your GL structure. Some of our SDC clients use up 3, 4, sometimes even 5 different segments. For example, you might have a segment set up for country, the next level would be a cost center, next segment would be a department, and then a responsibility code, and then an account number code. So to simplify things today, we're going to be dealing with 2 segments. So currently I'm going to query upon a couple of the segments that we've already defined in the system. And these are corporate segments. We have set up here Corp Canada, which is our corporate balance sheet for Canada, and one for the United States. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to make a corporate worldwide, which will encompass both of these 2 rollup identifiers. If we look at our first rollup identifier, corporate US, if we wish to add another what we have defined here as our cost center. Now I'm going to quickly just go into our segment definition entry screen. This screen here is where we define within this program that we're working in, FS2000, the rollup, this the segment number that we wish to be prompted for. So in this case here, our first segment is our cost center, and when we're prompted in the rollup screen for our segment, in this case it's going to be our cost center segment. So our financial statements, when they're using the rollup identifier, is going to be using our cost center segment. Get down to the point where we're going to be defining what particular lines are going to be printing on our financial statements, which is in the program FS2400, our sequencing. At that point we're going to be prompted for the second segment, which is our lowest level, which we call our account level. So if we come into this screen here now, and I'm just going to clear out this, and I'm going to do a list of values at this point, and we're going to see the various cost centers that exist. So in this case here, what we had in there was cost segment 090, which was Detroit. I'm going to add another cost center here. Now I can go to my list of values, and I could select another location if I wish. And so if we wanted to add another segment such as New York, we can do that at this point. But we also have the option here to use a wildcard if we wish. So if we wanted any cost center that started with a 6 and ended with a 0, with any other middle digit, we can use a wildcard and put an underbar there. Or if we wanted all cost centers that started with a 6 and digit following, we could use our percentage sign. So we can enter an unlimited amount of values in this field here, which we call account, but in this case here, since we've defined it as our cost center, an unlimited amount of cost centers here, and we could also put a range in here if we wanted to go from, like, for example, 090 to branch 2 099. We can also do that. So in this case here, these cost centers will be reported together when the user selects the corporate United States roll-up definition for their financial statement report. Now, this type of a setup is quite sufficient for most companies, but if we wanted to go to a more higher level than this and include some of these roll-up definitions, for example, we do have our corporate US and we also had our corporate Canada set up here. We may want to make a corporate wide roll-up, and we do that in our multi-level roll-up definition entry screen, which is called FS 2100. So we'll go in there. So this uses some more sophisticated rolling up using the previously defined roll-ups. So I'm going to set up one called Corp Wide. And I'm going to come down here and we'll do a list of values, and we're going to select from our various roll-ups that we've already defined. And we have our corporate US, and we're also going to include our corporate Canada to make up our corporate wide roll-up definition entry. And we'll save that record. So now when we're doing our financial statements, and we'll explain this in further tutorials, we could have a corporate-wide financial statement, so it will report on our corporate US and corporate Canada, or perhaps we just want financial statements by corporate Canada, corporate US, or one of the many other roll-up identifiers that have already been set up in previous tutorials. So far we've set up our roll-ups based upon our various geographic locations, but you can set up roll-ups for many different functions within your company as long as it's defined within your GL account structure. So you may want to have a particular financial statement set up for your advertising, your sales, your service department, perhaps your MIS area. You want to have it by geographic zones. So by setting up your roll-up identifiers, you can break down how your financial statements will be reported upon. So you may want to just set up some roll-ups strictly for analysis purposes, like for example, you're restructuring your US operations and you want to see how the numbers in your financial statements would fit together using various segments within your GL. So you can put these all together in your roll-ups for your own restructuring analysis. Or for example, you may have a department manager and you want to do a roll-up based upon his responsibilities and all the GL accounts that are going to get hit within his own area. You could set up a roll-up in that fashion and report upon that. So there's a great deal of flexibility allowed with the roll-up definition. That concludes the tutorial on roll-up definition. We'll move on next to setting up your data that's going to appear within your financial statements on a line-by-line level, and that will be done in the financial statement sequencing tutorial.